Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered where the person you used to be went? Have you noticed that your values, your passion, even your sense of humor have slowly been replaced by something foreign, something that serves your employer's interests rather than your own authentic self? If so, you're experiencing one of the most devastating yet invisible consequences of our modern economic system, the systematic destruction of human personality in service of corporate efficiency. What I'm about to reveal to you isn't just about bad bosses or toxic workplace culture. This goes much deeper. This is about how the very structure of our economy, built on principles championed by economist Milton Friedman and the Chicago School, has created a machine designed to reshape human beings into perfectly compliant economic units. Friedman promised us that free markets would liberate human potential, that competition would bring out the best in us, that individual choice would lead to collective prosperity. Instead, we've created a system that systematically strips away everything that makes us uniquely human. Recent research from the American Psychological Association shows that 79% of workers report experiencing work-related stress, with 36% reporting chronic workplace stress that affects their personal relationships and core sense of identity. A longitudinal study published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that prolonged exposure to neoliberal workplace practice correlates directly with what researchers term personality erosion, the gradual replacement of authentic personal traits with externally imposed behavioral patterns optimized for economic productivity. But here's what those statistics don't capture. This isn't happening by accident. This is the logical outcome of an economic philosophy that views human beings as nothing more than factors of production, as capital to be optimized rather than individuals to be respected. Milton Friedman's vision of maximum efficiency through market mechanisms has created workplaces that function like personality laundering operations, systematically washing away your authentic self and replacing it with a corporate-approved version. I'm going to walk you through 5 specific mechanisms by which your job is likely destroying your personality right now. These aren't random workplace problems, they're the predictable results of applying Friedman's economic theories to human management. Understanding these mechanisms isn't just about recognizing the problem, it's about reclaiming your authentic self from a system designed to erase it. The first mechanism is what I call the authentic expression suppression system. In Friedman's model of economic efficiency, individual quirks, personal opinions, and unique perspectives are seen as friction in the marketplace of labor. The theory suggests that by standardizing human behavior, organizations can maximize productivity and minimize transaction costs. What this means in practice is that your workplace has likely developed sophisticated methods for identifying and eliminating any aspect of your personality that doesn't serve corporate objectives. This suppression operates through what researchers call emotional labor extraction, the process by which companies harvest your natural emotional responses and replace them with algorithmic optimized alternatives. You've probably experienced this as being told to stay positive, be a team player, or maintain professionalism in situations where your authentic response would be frustration, disagreement, or creative rebellion. A study from Stanford's Graduate School of Business found that workers subjected to intensive emotional labor extraction show measurable changes in brain chemistry within 6 months, specifically in regions associated with personal identity formation and authentic emotional processing. Consider how many times per week you find yourself saying things you don't mean, expressing enthusiasm for projects you find meaningless, or suppressing reactions that feel completely natural. Each time you do this, you're not just being professional, you're participating in what organizational psychologists term personality strip mining. Your authentic responses are being systematically identified, extracted, and replaced with corporate-approved alternatives. The practical manifestation of this mechanism is everywhere once you start looking for it. You'll notice that you've developed what I call a corporate personality overlay, set of behaviors, expressions, and even thoughts that activate automatically in work contexts but feel completely foreign to who you are outside of work. You might catch yourself using corporate buzzwords in casual conversation, or find that you've lost the ability to express genuine emotion without first calculating its professional implication. The second mechanism destroying your personality is the values displacement engine. Milton Friedman argued that market mechanisms naturally align individual interests with collective good through the invisible hand of competition. In reality, what this created was a system that systematically replaces your personal values with corporate values, making you believe this replacement represents your own choice and growth. This displacement operates through what behavioral economists call value arbitrage, the practice of identifying the gap between your authentic values and corporate objectives, then creating psychological pressure to resolve this discomfort by abandoning your original values rather than questioning corporate demands. Research from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School demonstrates that exposure to value displacement techniques for more than 2 years creates measurable changes in what people report as their core beliefs, with subjects showing decreased connection to previously held principles about fairness, creativity, and social responsibility. The mechanism works by first identifying what you genuinely care about, then systematically demonstrating how caring about those things conflicts with your professional success. If you value work-life balance, you'll be shown examples of how the most successful people sacrifice personal time for professional advancement. If you value honest communication, you'll be trained in strategic messaging that teaches you to see direct honesty as naive and counterproductive. If you value collaborative decision-making, you'll be taught to appreciate efficient hierarchies that eliminate the messiness of group input. What makes this particularly insidious is that the displacement is packaged as personal development. You're not being asked to abandon your values, you're being coached to see that your previous values were immature, idealistic, or simply incompatible with success in the real world. A longitudinal study published in the Journal of Business Ethics found that 67% of professionals report that their fundamental beliefs about fairness, integrity, and human relationships have evolved since joining their current organization, with the vast majority unable to articulate exactly how or why these changes occurred. You can recognize this mechanism in your own life by paying attention to internal justifications you make for behavior that would have disgusted your younger self. Notice how often you catch yourself explaining why compromising your principles is actually a sign of maturity, why accepting unfair treatment is strategic thinking, or why abandoning personal relationships for professional advancement represents healthy prioritization. The third mechanism is what I call the creativity sterilization protocol. Friedman's efficiency model treats human creativity as a chaotic variable that needs to be managed and channeled into predictable, measurable outcomes. The result is a systematic process designed to identify your natural creative impulses and either eliminate them entirely or redirect them into forms that serve corporate objectives rather than expressing your authentic, innovative capacity. This sterilization operates through innovation channeling, a process that appears to encourage creativity while actually constraining it within predetermined parameters that serve organizational goals rather than human expression. Neurological research from MIT shows that prolonged exposure to structured creativity protocols actually rewires the brain's default mode network, the neural system responsible for spontaneous idea generation and authentic problem-solving approaches. The protocol typically begins with what appears to be encouragement for creative thinking. You're invited to brainstorm, to think outside the box, to bring fresh perspectives to established problems. However, every creative output you produce is immediately subjected to filters designed to eliminate any ideas that might challenge existing power structures, question fundamental assumptions, or propose solutions that don't align with predetermined strategic objectives. Over time, you begin to internalize these filters, editing your creative impulses before they even fully form. Research from the Creative Studies Institute found that workers exposed to corporate creativity protocols for more than 18 months show a 43% decrease in what researchers term divergent thinking capacity, the ability to generate novel solutions that transcend established frameworks. More disturbing, these same workers report increased satisfaction with their creative output, suggesting that the sterilization process includes mechanisms for making people prefer their constrained creativity to their original innovative capacity. You can identify this mechanism by examining how your creative problem-solving approach has changed since you started your current job. Notice whether you find yourself automatically rejecting ideas that feel too radical, too different, or too challenging to existing ways of doing things. Pay attention to how often you experience what feels like creative excitement, only to immediately dampen it with thoughts about feasibility, political implications, or resource constraints. The fourth mechanism destroying your personality is the emotional authenticity replacement system. In Friedman's model, emotions are inefficiencies that interfere with rational decision-making and optimal resource allocation. Modern workplaces have developed sophisticated techniques for identifying your natural emotional responses and replacing them with artificially optimized emotional states and to maximize productivity and minimize organizational friction. This replacement operates through effective labor management, the systematic harvesting of your emotional energy and its redirection toward corporate objectives rather than personal fulfillment or authentic relationship building. Studies from the University of California, Berkeley show that workers subjected to intensive effective labor management develop what researchers call emotional dissociation syndrome, a condition where individuals lose the ability to distinguish between artificially induced emotional states and their authentic feelings. The system works by first mapping your natural emotional landscape, identifying which feelings energize you, which drain you, and which motivate you towards specific types of action. This information is then used to create personalized emotional manipulation protocols designed to generate maximum labor output while minimizing the organization's investment in your actual well-being or satisfaction. For example, if you're naturally motivated by a sense of justice and fairness, your workplace will present routine tasks as opportunities to fight for what's right or make a difference in people's lives. If you're energized by creativity and innovation, mundane responsibilities will be reframed as creative challenges or opportunities to think outside the box. If you value community and connection, you will be told that working overtime and sacrificing personal relationships demonstrates your commitment to the work family. Research published in the International Journal of Workplace Health Management found that 84% of professionals report feeling emotionally exhausted not from the volume of work, but from the constant need to generate enthusiasm for activities that feel fundamentally meaningless. This isn't burnout in the traditional sense, it's the systematic depletion of your emotional authenticity until you can no longer access genuine feelings about anything, including your own life outside of work. You can recognize this mechanism by paying attention to the gap between the emotions you're expected to display and the emotions you actually feel. Notice how often you find yourself performing enthusiasm, gratitude, or excitement while internally feeling boredom, resentment, or confusion. Track how your emotional responses have changed since starting your current position, particularly whether you've lost access to feelings that used to be central to your personality. The fifth and most devastating mechanism is what I call the identity dissolution engine. This represents the culmination of Friedman's vision of human beings as perfectly fungible economic units, rather than simply suppressing aspects of your personality. This mechanism actively dissolves the psychological structures that maintain your sense of being a coherent, autonomous individual with a unique perspective and personal agency. This dissolution operates through identity liquefaction, a process that systematically breaks down the boundaries between your personal identity and your professional role until you can no longer distinguish between who you are and what you do for money. Longitudinal research from Harvard Business School tracking professionals over 7-year periods found that individuals working in environments with intensive identity dissolution protocols show measurable decreases in what psychologists call self-coherence, the ability to maintain a consistent sense of personal identity across different contexts and time periods. The engine works by gradually expanding the scope of behaviors, thoughts, and relationships that are considered professional responsibilities until there's no aspect of your existence that isn't subject to corporate optimization. You'll notice this as an increasing inability to make decisions, even about personal matters, without first considering their professional implications. You might find yourself evaluating friendships based on networking potential, choosing hobbies that could enhance your resume, or structuring family time around professional development goals. What makes this mechanism particularly effective is that it's presented as personal empowerment and professional growth. You're not losing your identity, you're developing a holistic approach to success or learning to integrate your personal and professional selves. Research from the Institute for Corporate Identities found that 73% of executives report feeling more authentic after undergoing identity dissolution protocols, even as psychological testing reveals decreased access to previously core personality traits and values. The dissolution process typically accelerates through what organizational psychologists term total life integration, the elimination of boundaries between work time and personal time, work relationships and personal relationships, work goals and personal goals. You'll be encouraged to see this integration as efficiency, as getting the most out of life, as achieving the kind of success that previous generations could only dream of. You can identify this mechanism by examining whether you can still articulate who you are independent of your professional role. Try describing yourself without mentioning your job, your career goals, or your professional achievement. Notice whether your personal relationships have become primarily transactional, whether your hobbies have been colonized by professional development objectives, or whether you've lost the ability to enjoy activities that don't contribute to your career advancement. Now, Let me synthesize what these 5 mechanisms reveal about the true nature of our economic system, and what you can do to reclaim your authentic personality from this systematic destruction. First, the authentic expression suppression system teaches you to see your natural responses as problems to be solved rather than information to be honored. Second, the values displacement engine convinces you that abandoning your principles represents personal growth rather than psychological colonization. Third, the creativity sterilization protocol channels your innovative capacity into predetermined outcomes while making you grateful for the opportunity. Fourth, the emotional authenticity replacement system harvests your emotional energy for corporate objectives while leaving you emotionally depleted and disconnected from your genuine feelings. Fifth, the identity dissolution engine eliminates the boundary between who you are and what you produce for others, making you believe this elimination represents integration and success. These mechanisms don't exist in isolation. They work together as a comprehensive system for transforming human beings into optimized economic units, while making this transformation feel like personal choice and professional development. This is Milton Friedman's vision of efficiency made manifest, a world where human personality becomes just another resource extracted, processed, and deployed in service of market objectives. But here's what Friedman and his followers never anticipated. Once you can see these mechanisms clearly, they begin to lose their power over you. Recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your authentic self from this systematic destruction. The moment you understand that your workplace isn't just demanding your time and skills, it's actively reshaping your personality to serve its objectives, you can begin to make conscious choices about which aspects of yourself you're willing to negotiate and which represent non-negotiable elements of who you are. The path to resistance begins with what I call personality archaeology, the systematic recovery of aspects of yourself that have been buried under layers of corporate conditioning. Start by identifying moments when you feel most like yourself, when your responses feel most authentic, when your actions align most closely with your genuine values and interests. These moments represent islands of authenticity that have survived the systematic destruction, and they can serve as foundation points for rebuilding your full personality. Create deliberate practices that allow you to exercise suppressed aspects of your personality in safe contexts. If your workplace suppressed your natural tendency toward direct communication, practice radical honesty in your personal relationships. If your creativity has been channeled into corporate-approved formats, experiment with forms of creative expression that serve no productive purpose whatsoever. If your emotions have been harvested for professional purposes, reconnect with feelings that have no workplace utility. Nostalgia, wonder, righteous anger about injustices that don't affect your career. Most importantly, begin to establish firm boundaries between who you are and what you do for money. This doesn't mean becoming less professional or less committed to excellence in your work. It means recognizing that your professional role is something you perform, not something you are. It means developing the ability to engage fully with professional responsibilities while maintaining access to aspects of yourself that exist independently of those responsibilities. The ultimate goal isn't to quit your job or abandon professional success. It's to reclaim your authentic personality as the foundation from which you engage with professional demands. When you know who you are independent of your work role, you can make conscious choices about which professional requirements you'll accept and which represent unacceptable compromises to your authentic self. This resistance isn't just personal, it's political. Every time you refuse to allow your personality to be dissolved into your professional role, you're challenging the fundamental assumptions of our economic system. You're asserting that human beings have value beyond their economic productivity, that personality and authenticity matter more than efficiency and optimization, that the purpose of work should be to support human flourishing rather than to extract maximum value from human resources. The system depends on your compliance, on your willingness to sacrifice your authentic self for professional advancement, on your belief that this sacrifice represents maturity and success. The moment you recognize that your personality is not a resource to be optimized, but a birthright to be protected, you begin to reclaim not just your individual authenticity, but your fundamental human dignity. Your authentic personality isn't a luxury you can afford. Once you've achieved professional success, it's the foundation without which professional success becomes meaningless. The person you were before your current job contains wisdom, creativity, values, and perspectives that no workplace should have the right to eliminate or replace. That person deserves to be recovered, honored, and allowed to participate in determining how you spend your one precious life. The choice is yours. Continue allowing your workplace to systematically destroy your personality in service of corporate objective, or begin the difficult but essential work reclaiming your authentic self from this systematic destruction. Your personality isn't just who you happen to be, it's who you choose to remain in the face of powerful forces designed to reshape you into someone else's vision of optimal productivity. The time to begin this reclamation is now, because every day you wait is another day of allowing irreplaceable aspects of your authentic self to be systematically extracted and replaced with corporate-approved alternatives. You deserve to remember who you were before your job started telling you who you should be, and you deserve to become who you're capable of being when your authentic personality is allowed to flourish free from systematic destruction.